President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of new military service chiefs, including a new National Security Advisor, Acting Inspector General of Police, and Acting Comptroller General of Customs. He also appointed new presidential guards and 4 new advisors. This is contained in a statement from the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, which sacked all previous occupants of the positions. Arise News correspondent Ferdinand Duroha reports.
Barely 3 weeks after President Bola Tinubu's inauguration, major shakeups in the polity have opened up mixed reactions from all quarters. The latest is the retirement of service chiefs and their immediate replacements. The new appointments are Malam Nuhu Ribadu, who is the National Security Advisor. Major General Christopher Musa is now the Chief of Defense Staff. Major General T.A. Lagbaja is the Chief of Army Staff. Rear Admiral E.A. Ogala, the Chief of Naval Staff, and Air Vice Marshal Abubakar, the Chief of Air Staff. Major General E.P. Ondonde is the new Chief of Defense Intelligence, while DIG Kayode Egbetukun is the Acting Inspector General of Police. Also, the President has approved the appointment of Adeni Bashir Adewale as the Acting Controller General of Customs. Similarly, the President has approved the appointment of other military officers in the presidential villa. Major Issa Farouk Aldu is the commanding officer of the State House Artillery. Captain Kazim Olalekon Sumon is the second in command of the State House Artillery. Major Kamaru Kuejo Hamzat is now the acting officer, State House Military Intelligence. Major T.S. Adeola is the commanding officer, State House Armament. The statement of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation says all appointed service chiefs, the Inspector General of Police, and the Comptroller General of Customs are to act in their positions pending their confirmation in accordance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Also, the President has approved the appointment of 2 additional special advisors and 2 senior assistants. Hadiza Bala Usman is Special Advisor Policy Coordination, while Hanatu Musa Musawa is the Special Advisor, Culture and Entertainment Economy. Senator Abdullahi Abubakar Gumel is the Senior Special Assistant on National Assembly Matters for the Senate, while Honorable Olanrewaju Kunle Ibrahim is the Senior Special Assistant on National Assembly Matters for the House of Reps. With these appointments, Nigerians will be watching to see in what direction that the appointees will shape the different policies of President Tinubu. Ferdinand Duroha, Arise News.
Well, Rufai, new announcements.
Yeah, new announcements. I mean, I don't know why people are saying this is tsunami. I saw it coming. I mean, it's only...
Some have described it as hurricane.
It's
hurricane.
Which hurricane? For what? A new government will bring in its own new people. So let's stop sensationalizing things. A new government will bring its own new people to work with. It's as simple as that. So I don't see any hurricane. And also, there was something trendy yesterday. Said there are no Igbo. There was an Easterner there. Let's call a spade a spade. I don't like to sensationalize issues. Right? There was Chief of Defense Staff there. The Chief of Naval Staff was is an Igbo person from Enugu State, if my memory serves, Ogala. CJ Musa, that's Chief of Defense Staff. Taoreed Lagbaja from Ilobu in Osun State. And you have this, officers here. President Tinubu will definitely work with his own people. But I think the first thing is the departure from what it used to be before. That, before now, it used to be former military officers that used to be in charge of, NSA, National Security Advisor. But when you look at it, hitherto, we used to have something called the E branch. It was after the Murtala coup that a lot of things changed and the military pretty much took the reins. But when we returned to democracy under Shehu Shagari, we had somebody of the police extraction become, the National Security Advisor. But since the return to democracy in 1990, we've always had military people. There was that talk about the military being a little ambivalent, but the truth is they will learn to work with Nuhu Ribadu. Because the truth is, you need, and in consonance with international best practices, you need that variation in thought process. You need that accountability partner in the NSC that will sit in a domiciled position to be able to interpret most of the defense threats and intelligence threats. Also being an intelligence officer himself, and did a lot of work as regards, cracking that aerial Kako in the 90s. Also to be able to take the mantle and the reins. So there's a lot that needs to be done as regards our military intelligence. And that's why we found wanting. That's why we're not able to crack down the bad guys. So Nuru had been in that role at the behest of the president to be able to marshal out a new security architecture. Good for Nigeria. But what we'll judge them by is outcomes. As regards the military, a new era is coming in, another era is going out. I think it's only Major General Musa that's of the class of 38, the 38 class here. General Lagbaja is of the 39 class, and increasingly we're already moving up to the 40 class in the military. All of these people are there to be able to ensure that they carry out the goal of ridding Nigeria of insecurity. And the truth is, while they congratulate them and celebrate, they should not celebrate too much. Because in a couple of months, if they don't do well, Nigerians will be asking for their head. And it's a clear case of soldier go, soldier come back, not to remain. The most important thing are the outcomes. They've got insurgency, they've got banditry cut out for them, they've got agitations in the southeast cut out for them and other parts of the country. So how they sit down and tackle these things will be good for them. Truth is, and we don't want momentary success. When President Muhammadu Buhari came in the space of a couple of months, we were able to achieve momentary success, but we couldn't consolidate it. We want lasting success as regards insecurity in the country. We give them our congratulations, but where they are found wanting, we give them our knocks. And another thing the Navy must look into, and this is a challenge to Navy Magala, is the issue of crude oil theft across our waters, and most importantly, the military too must look strongly as regards this. So a lot of successes to them, wish them the very best, but also we will support them with our criticism. But I saw it coming, definitely. And kudos also to DIG Egbetoku. It comes in well prepared for the job.
Okay.
IG Egbetoku now, I should say. Acting Nigeria.
What are the issues? Let me start with Nuhu Ribadu. It is true that some people are saying, oh, why are they making the policeman the national security advisor? And some stories planted, I stress the point, planted in the papers, indicating that the military top brass were saying, oh, we can't report to a policeman. The first thing to note is that the police is the first line of defense for internal security. And it is not new. President Tinubu has not done anything new by appointing a policeman as the national security advisor. In the same country, under Shagari, we had Umaru Shinkafi. Umaru Shinkafi was a policeman. Under IBB, we had Gambo Jimeta. Gambo Jimeta was a policeman. Under Abacha, we have Aliyu Ismaila Gwazo as national security advisor. So we've had policemen in this country before being national security advisors. Now, in some other jurisdictions, the United States that we like to quote, many of the national security advisors do not even have a military background, but they probably have intelligence background. And Nuhu Ribadu and the others before him, came from the intelligence background within the Nigeria police. In other words, what is the job of the National Security Advisor? The National Security Advisor's Office, which is a big, institution within the Nigerian presidency, as is the case elsewhere, as MI5, MI6 will seem to be in the United Kingdom, for example, serves as a bridge between the people and the government in security-related materials. And the tutu-tatu over Nuhu Ribadu's appointment is pointless, because this is a man who has proven himself as chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. He also has a solid education to back it up. He has a master's in law from the Ahmadu Bello University. He has also had a stint in Oxford University. But above all of this, he's also a bridge builder, a man who is well connected across various constituencies of Nigeria. who tried to build himself beyond just being an ordinary policeman into somebody of substance within the Nigerian space. And it is not for nothing that he has a direct personal relationship with President Tinubu himself, having been the man that he sponsored previously, as a presidential candidate of the ACN, as that party was known before it dissolved into the bigger platform now known today as the APC. So he comes prepared for the job. As for the service chiefs, well, let's just say, the service chiefs that are leaving, Lucky Rabo and the others, Amao and all the others, well, we congratulate them. Looks like their career in public position has come to an end. Opinion may be divided in terms of what they were able to achieve, what they were not able to achieve, but as a service chief, you can only do as much as possible under the commander-in-chief. And it's traditional for a new man in the saddle to change his service chiefs. So I don't think, their disengagement and subsequent replacement will come to any one of them as any kind of surprise. So we have new people there now. And those new people, they are the ones we should focus on. From, Nuhu Ribadu, who is National Security Advisor, GTA Lagbaja, who is Chief of Army Staff, Ogala, EA Ogala, who is Chief of Naval Staff from the Southeast. Initially, when I saw the list, I was looking for an Igbo name. Ogala doesn't sound like an Igbo name. I have a friend, BK Ogala. We call him BK Tunja Ogala. He is from Edo State, so I thought this was a man from Edo State, but eventually we were able to confirm that this Ogala, EA Ogala, is from, the Southeast, border town between the Middle Belt and the East. So that's why maybe his name doesn't sound so autochthonous, because Nigerian names tend to be very autochthonous. So there is no nepotism here. President Tinubu has escaped that. However, what I find curious in some of the appointments is his decision to be naming positions for commanders of the artillery, commanders of the garrison, commanders of the armament. And these are routine military postings. When did we get to a point in Nigeria that the president of Nigeria will be naming commander of brigade of guards, commander of the artillery, commander of the armament, commander of the garrison? I think there's too much detail in that regard. Maybe the president was not properly advised in that regard. As for the new special advisors that have been named, where Adiza Bala Usman distinguished herself with distinction, in my view, as the person in charge of the Nigerian Ports Authority. She was also chief of staff to Nasir Rufai, and she has been very distinguished in the public space. But the position they've given her, they named her special advisor policy coordination. Policy coordination is primarily the function of the Ministry of National Planning, because it's the Ministry of National Planning that goes through that process, which I described the other time, Young and Queen, 1979, with regard to, and Ezeanya 2022, with regard to policy evaluation. That process, the most critical part of that process is policy monitoring and evaluation. So policy coordination may not really be the issue. I think, they could have named that policy monitoring and evaluation, policy implementation. How do you implement? How do you evaluate? How do you monitor the process? Because here in Nigeria, formulating policy is not a problem. We come up with all kinds of policies every day. The problem is always in the implementation. I hope in defining our role, they will focus more on that. Anatu Musawa has also been deservedly been appointed a special advisor. They put her in charge of culture, entertainment, and all of that. But there is a lot that she can also bring to the table. She's a very brilliant, young woman, very committed. She served as spokesperson during the campaign, and it's very good to see, these persons being rewarded. Adeniyi, Wale Adeniyi, as I know him, you know, I've known him since he was PRO for customs in Lagos. Yes, many people who know him will remember him, would easily acknowledge the fact that he's a very dutiful person, you know, very committed, very polite, and all of that. And it's good to see a man like him being rewarded, you know, with a major appointment in Nigeria. You know, one of those diamonds, hidden diamonds, who are willing to give and give and give. So I'm personally delighted to see him as the man now in charge of customs. And unlike the man that he's replacing, he will not have any issues wearing a uniform. After all, that was the uniform he used to wear. The military man that Buhari brought there refused to wear customs uniform because he thought it was infra dignitatem. But you know, Wale Adeniyi will be glad to reunite with his colleagues, you know, in the service. There's also Egbetokun, right?
Yes, yes.
You know, who has been made acting Inspector General of Police. Well, in that regard, you see President Tinubu expressing loyalty. When people have served you well, you also look out for them. And I think at a personal, emotional level, that is quite instructive. But Kayode Egbetokun is well educated. He's a man who has improved himself very well, you know, in the service and trying to gain a lot of academic knowledge. We hope now that his principal, his boss, he used to be ADC to Tinubu in Lagos. Now that his boss has remembered him and has put him in charge of the police, that he will also realize that that's a big responsibility. It's not a cynical position. You know, luckily, well, he doesn't have a big tummy like some of his predecessors. So, but it's beyond that. We hope that he will bring to that task the quality of education that he has been privileged to receive, the knowledge that he has, and his experience as a policeman in the course of his career. So, for all of them, expectations are very high. And, you know, in that regard, I think Tinubu personally expects a lot. Finally, I think Tinubu really is just playing what they call rose garden politics. I've written elsewhere, saw Bello saying, you seize the day. He's seizing the momentum. He's consolidating. He's acquiring legitimacy. On Thursday, he's going to travel to France to go and sign some kind of partnership and all of that. And it's good in terms of optics, what he's doing. You know, just trying to stay ahead of the momentum and present Nigerians more or less with a fait accompli. The statement with regard to these appointments was issued by Willie Bassey, who works in the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. Well, that's not the office that speaks for the President of Nigeria. Now that we have a special advisor with an omnibus you know, greedy portfolio, special advisor, communication strategy. Look, the most important part of that job is the communications part of it. And the presidency of Nigeria has a very robust communications department. We need to have a spokesperson get onto the job immediately. It's not the secretary to the Government of the Federation's office that speaks for the President of Nigeria. The President of Nigeria must take charge of his own communications process, and we should have that department beginning to function ASAP.
Absolutely. Now, a number of things have been said with regards to these new appointments and, of course, following the sacking of the old. I would say that would leave Nigerians to judge in terms of how the previous service chiefs served and see the lessons that can be learned from the new service chiefs. But I'd like to focus on, I mean, a lot has been said about Malam Nuhu Ribadu, his credentials. He's not a stranger to a number of people. Some people might look back at his tenure as EFCC boss and the reforms and the high-profile cases was able to prosecute as boss and see that as a good, perhaps, yardstick to judge how his performance will be as NSA. Critical position there. Now, two things the president has addressed in the first few weeks of office: the economy. Last week, he inaugurated the National Economic Council, and security. And interestingly, these two aspects of a nation work, sort of hand in hand. You can't have a thriving economy when you have security issues. So even if you handle or settle the economy or announce economic reforms, you must be able to make, complementary security changes as well. As has been said already, it was expected. In fact, I do believe that on the day of inauguration, some of the service chiefs would have begun to put their house in order, ready for the new. Now, in terms of the new, the Chief of Defense Staff, after the NSA, is a principal actor when it comes to security in Nigeria. In fact, is the most senior uniformed military officer in terms of service in this area. Major General C.G. Musa. I went to Borno State a few months back, and I had the pleasure of meeting him. At that point, he was just being deployed from being the theater commander of Hadin Kai, which was the operation in the northeast against Boko Haram. Hadin Kai means cooperation, and it had been a name change from Operation Lafia Dole, which means forced peace, or peace by force. And what the transition, particularly in the name change, meant was the style of operation and the fact that they thought they had made quite an inroad in defeating terrorism in the Northeast. And if you recall, during the past administration, the former president had spoken about this a number of times, particularly when it was tackled with regards to how he had handled security matters in Nigeria. And one of their shining stars was how they had been able to, to push back in terms of terrorism in the Northeast. And a man who played quite a key role in that was actually Major General C.G. Musa. And beyond just the reports or the praise for him, was an opportunity to speak to the people in Maiduguri, in Borno State. And if you speak to many of them, they had very good things to say about his leadership, the military presence, and what the military had done in the Northeast, particularly with regards to Boko Haram. So in that instance, he was able to do quite well. He was handing over to Major General Ali at that time, and it was, a bittersweet one for his infantry corps. But it's important to highlight this because he's going to be taking a lot more, as has been said. Beyond terrorism, there's the issue of banditry. There's the issue of the farmer-herder clash. And he himself, being from the southern part of Kaduna, and he was born, had quite a stint in Sokoto in the northeast. It's hopeful that he would use the experience and intelligence he's been able to gather in the course of his career to do excellently well in this position that he's been elevated to. So that's one area. Now, in terms of the other areas, or two other people I'd like to just highlight as well in that regard, is the new special advisors. The first, of course, Hadiza Bala Usman, who's also been in the news recently, as some people had tried to dig up the case with regards to how she was taken out of the Nigerian Port Authority. There are a number of stories with regards to that. There's a story from the perspective of the Minister of Transportation at the time, who was Honorable Rotimi Amechi, and of course her own perspective. A woman who has been known not to be afraid to step on toes, hence the name of her book, Stepping on Toes. So the honors, and in terms of looking at or just trying to analyze or look at the quality of the people whom the president has appointed, it is important to look at their antecedents. And then with Hannatu Musa Musawa, I'm more interested, or perhaps speaking to her, to her office, Special Advisor, Culture and Entertainment Economy. Two things, of course, I'm excited about is that we see women taking on these positions, and the fact that the president had made his commitment to involving youths and women in his cabinet, in his portfolio, or in his government. But very interesting is, what would the culture and entertainment economy handle? One thing we've spoken about a number of times is the potential of this industry. Beyond entertainment, music, fashion, Dr. Bati, you've always talked about a culture economy. And so we're hoping that it will not just be a title or just a position, but that it would be a role that's clearly defined to push that aspect of Nigeria, because it is potential that has not been maximized or tapped fully in previous administrations. Well, congratulations to the new appointees, and we're looking forward to them, delivering on their duties.